These are my 10 best moments. Nope, they're not. They're my 7, no, 8. These are my 8 best moments of the 2023 season. Okay, before I get into it, if you wouldn't mind, subscribe, and if you can afford to, becoming a member is really helpful. It helps me continue to put this content out there. Obviously, have no skill in, well, not obviously, but I have no skill in editing, in shooting things. So there's obviously a cost associated, and I'm really happy to put it out there to help you guys. Easiest way to pay that back is becoming a member. So thank you so much for those who already have. Membership base is growing quite a bit. So looking forward to creating that community and seeing that community grow over time. But without further ado, here are my 10 best moments. First, and most obviously, is the invite to Worlds. Something I've spoken a little bit about before is that if I didn't get invited to Worlds, there was a chance that I would have given up strongman. Reason being, I was in Australia, I had my strength community there, I was moving back to my hometown, and there's no real strongman community here, and if I had no comps to go to and I had no comps that I had qualified for, that means that I would be back to square one. I'd be back to a local comp. I was starting up a business, and sometimes life just gets in the way. So I'm not sure that I would have continued on. So that was a really big moment for me to say, well, I got to commit. So I ordered a whole bunch of equipment from Australia. I got that shipped over, and I 100% committed to doing Worlds, and that's sort of how everything kicked off. The one bit that I didn't talk about in my worst moments of the year is that the hands down the worst was I was a reserve for Worlds, and there was a huge lack of transparency around if I would find out if I was in. I didn't find out I was reserve until a week or so after the other guys found out they were in, and there's so much stress associated with that. For me, psychologically, I can deal with any change, and I can deal with any adverse event. I just can't deal with uncertainty very well. So that was really, really tough for me. But invite to Worlds, that gets #1 spot on the list. Number 2 is winning the group at Worlds. When I was put into this group with Brian Shaw, Constantine Janasha, Bobby Thompson, Gabriel Pena, Mark Felix, I was like, this is the best thing ever, because now I could come last in the group and it still doesn't matter. I'm still fine. And being able to go in and win the first event, win the second event, win the third event was unreal. And that rush when I was at the line just before going to pick up the wrecking ball in the loading medley in the first event, it was so cool. And you know, all I thought was go as fast as possible. And in hindsight, that event in that group was basically a banker for me. Yeah, but I didn't see it that way at the time. And so cool to be able to go out there, perform well. Deadlift ladder, just doing my thing. The funny thing about the deadlift ladder, and this is sort of something that is consistent over the year, when you do something well, oftentimes it's not like in the bag, easy, no worries. I did the first 4 barbells without straps on, and obviously chalk comes off your hands every time you go. So I believe it was 300, 320, 340, 360, 380. And I got to 360, I was over under, and I had locked it out, and my underhand was just slowly opening. And literally at the last moment, Maggie gives the down call. And if he didn't, I would have dropped it. I would have had to restrap. And then who knows if I got all 5, who knows if I lost some points. But then onto the car walk, and again, yoke and car walk, that type of stuff, really like it. So that was pretty special to be able to come out on top of those guys. Sort of started to get into my head that I belong there, that I was competitive, and I could do something special. Number 3 is winning the first event in the finals. This just continued on a pattern throughout the entire year that the pressure of whatever circumstance never really got to me. And in other sports it has. And for whatever reason, I just really enjoy strongman. I enjoy what I'm doing. It's not a big deal in terms of getting my nervousness and anxiety. I still get excited for competition. I still have that apprehensive feeling before going out to do a lift, but It's not there's not much negative emotion associated with it. So winning that first event in the finals, which was loading those boxes into the yoke, head to head was Tom Stoltman. That was so cool. And to backtrack one, at Worlds, just imagine this: you're literally 4 competitions into your strongman career, full stop. Not professional, full stop. And you do a car walk against Mark Felix. You do a deadlift ladder against Brian Shaw. You do a loading race against Tom Stoltman. Those are 3 of your first 6 events. Like, it's an absolutely mental start in terms of like the gravity of people that I was head to head with. So that was number 3. Winning that first event in the finals was so cool. There was a time that I was leading the World's Strongest Man finals, which is very exciting, and hopefully I can lead at the right time next time around. Number 4 is the Royal Albert Hall. Now, I podiumed at that show. It was my first Giants Live podium, first professional podium, but just that place is so cool. The environment of the Giants Live crowd is just something else, and their production value is so high. Walking down those stairs with the flag in Royal Albert Hall, everyone's all on top of you. It's really something that it's really hard to compare it to anything else I've done in any sport, and that was a really special feeling. It was a trip out as well, just with me and my mom, and that's always a bit special as well, because when you're an adult, obviously it's few and far between that you just do something with you and your parent. What do we got? Number 5? Number 5 is my podium at the Shaw Classic. So Strongman started to become known for 4 big shows, which is Worlds, the Arnold's, Rogue Invitational, and Shaw Classic. And this is because this is where the best guys go. Before the Shaw Classic, Bobby Thompson came up to me, and Bobby is the first person that I'll go to if I ever want an honest answer on something. And he said, you know, this is the last bit that people don't believe about you, because I don't look overly big and I don't look like the rest of them. According to Bobby, I'm skinny fat, working on it. But he made a really good point, and he said, if you do well here, this is your chance to prove that you're not just the fast guy, not just the guy who can run around. And I mean, Shaw were leg pressing a car, sandbags were so heavy, the Atlas stones were really heavy, max hammer tie deadlift. You're literally, when you go into a comp, you know all the events, but then as you go through, you sort of half forget. You're like, okay, right, this is up next. And oftentimes you're looking for that sort of relief. And for me, it's when are we doing a loading race that I could take a bit of a step back, or when's there going to be a lighter yoke that we can go okay on? And there's just nothing. Like event after event, it's just like hammer you, and then you get out of bed to start day 2, and you're like, oh, you're so sore and so tight. So to be able to go out there, perform well. I also had to prove it to myself throughout the year that I was capable of a bunch of different things, and my confidence level in that's really high, and it's accurate self-assessment, really. That's a valid concern when I was going into that show. So that was really, really cool for me. Number 6, the stupid walking stones at the Arnold UK. There's such a physical element to strongman, of course, but there's certain times where there's a mental element and you just have to kind of get over it. And those stones, I picked them up. I tried to pick them up hook grip the day before. I couldn't even pick them up. I picked them up with my hands, and they weren't heavy, but I knew that I couldn't hold them in my hands like that. So I was really quite worried. In that show, looking at the whole thing was going to turn out to be a 2-horse race between myself and Alexi, and the only unknown was the walking stones. I think I had a slight edge on deadlift. He was going to win dumbbell. I probably had a slight edge on the sandbag toss. I probably had a slight edge on the yoke. At the time, I would have given him the edge on the stones, the Atlas stones. So that's when we could have lost or gained a lot of points. And to be able to get this locked in and just put mind out of it and be the only person to finish that, that was an electric moment. And I think that might have been the loudest crowd that I've experienced all year. When I was 3/4 of the way through that walking stone run and everyone's standing up and they're yelling in the Arnold's atmosphere, That was amazing. Now, that was my first professional win, but I think what secured that is those walking stones, and that's why that's the moment for me. That was so special. Number 6, the Giants Live win in Scotland. This made my podium streak 5 in a row, and we sat in the athletes meeting the day before, and Colin Bryce was reiterating that this is the qualifying tour for World's Strongest Man, and whoever wins this virtually guarantees himself a top seed for World's Strongest Man next year. Now, not number 1 seed, but one of the top seeded guys in the group. And it was a pretty strong field. We had Wide Pav, we had Ivars, we had Narrow Pav, Handsome Pav, and really quite a stacked line. Awesome events for Kevin Ferris, and really solid lineup of guys. Several guys who are World's Strongest Man finalists and definitely contenders to be finalists in the future. And I in my opinion, I handedly won that comp. I paced myself through virtually every event. I came second in the Dinny Stones and set a new world record before Kevin broke it. Then I won the loading race, and after that, it was just steady. Every time Laws basically said, you gotta go out and do this, I went out and did this. 6 reps on the deadlift, no problem. I think I was going for 7 on the dumbbell. I ended up getting 6. It was close. I had a good lead going into the power stairs, so I was pretty steady and measured with the power stairs, and really just had that one in hand. I think from the get-go, I felt really good that day. Last one, number 8, the yoke into log at Rogue. I'm really proud of that one. I've watched that back a number of times, and I think that was my best athletic performance of the year. And to finish off the year on a note like that was really good. But similar to the walking stones at the Arnold's UK, this was pivotal for me to be able to get myself into contention for the podium. Like I said in a previous video of my worst moments, the deadlift performance was okay, tied for 5th, nothing to be proud of. Then the dumbbell was terrible, and I was in 7th place after event 2. Then I won the sandbag carry, so I started to build momentum into day 2. Then day 3 started with the arm over arm, which again, I came 5th. So those top guys were really separating away, and the podium streak looked to be done. And I sort of thought it was, but I knew that there was a couple of things that I could do well in the meantime, and just having a super clean run on the yoke into log, exactly what I knew I could do. But again, like I always say, what you know you can do and what you can execute often are very different things. So that was phenomenal. Really happy with that one. And then I actually finished with a 2nd place performance on stones, which in a field like that, for me, to go from 9th at Worlds in the finals and a similar strength field and come 2nd at Rogue, when you see stones in every single strongman comp, that's a huge positive for me. So those were my best 8 moments of 2023. If you think I missed anything, go ahead, pop that in the comments. There's a lot of really cool moments, really special moments. A lot of them are so small that I can't say that this is it, but things like people like the moose at when people are chanting moose in Cardiff, when I have kids that coming up to me really excited and they look at you like you're a superhero, messages I get on Instagram, how I've impacted people, all that stuff is super high on my fulfillment list and adds to these 8 best athletic moments of the year. So thank you very much, guys. Appreciate you. Like I said, like, comment, subscribe, leave a moose dropping, which is just the periods for people who don't know. Helps the algorithm. And if you can afford it, please go become a member. Otherwise, I appreciate you watching. Have a great day, and we'll see you soon.